Hello, everyone, and welcome to session 2E of World Resources Forum 2021. So this is Circular Economy Across Plastics Value Chains, Regional Initiatives. My co-chair and I would first very briefly like to introduce ourselves. I'm Professor Pauline Deutz from the Department of Geography, Geology and Environment at the University of Hull in the UK, and my research indeed concerns circular economy, and as it included a look at plastics. Harold, over to you.
Yes, hello from my side. My name is Harold Dissing. I work at EMPA on the topic of sustainable material cycles and decarbonization. So we're going to have the rules of the play game today introduced. So basically all the participants will present. All the speakers will present 5 minutes each, and then yeah, we will have a short discussion and a discussion afterwards. Please write your questions in the chat, or also you can raise your hands and also indicate your name and the organization. At the end of the session, we will have a voting procedure, and everyone can vote on which is the best presentation. Which you can see there, yes. So, so you need to indicate your ID number, the ID number for the presentation you vote for. Okay, then let's get started with the first presentation, which is by Hilda Ada. She is a co-founder of the ASASE Foundation in Ghana, and leads this caching model on the plastic waste. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Yes. So as it's been said, my name is Hilda. I'm co-founder of ASASE Foundation. Our project is closing the loop of plastics in Ghana, a model of global collaboration in European leadership. Next. Who are we? No, can you go back? Yeah. Who are we? What we have to share? Our collaboration and partnerships, and the tools and insights that we have developed over the past 3 years. Next slide. So our purpose is to enable Ghanaian women entrepreneurs to play a key role in cashing in the plastic waste trash of Accra for the benefits of our communities. The face of plastic waste pickers is the woman. So our target is really the women who are the base of the chain. Our objective is to close the loop of plastic packaging in Ghana. Maximize the value created, which is retained in the community, and create social impact, that is create jobs, develop the people we work with, and invest back in the community. Next. Our first social enterprise, which we call Cash It, was launched in 2018 in Catamanso with funding from the Impact Fund from the Dow Chemical Company. Next. With this, we aim to divert plastic waste from litter. And with our Cash It plant, we build our equipment locally with our local artisans. And the capacity of the plant is 100 tons processed. We process 100 tons of plastic, sachet plastic per month in 2 shifts. And also process HD, that is the rigid plastics, that is 80 tons of the rigid plastics per month, also in 2 shifts. Next slide. Please skip. Yes, like I said, our purpose is to enable the Ghanaian women entrepreneurs to play a key role in cashing in the plastic trash of Accra. And our strategy is that when we set up these social enterprises, we build the capacity of the people who work in the enterprises to operate and maintain them and to bring them to profit. And in 2 to 5 years, in 3 to 5 years, we transfer these social enterprises to the entrepreneurs whom we have built their capacity to run these enterprises profitably. Next. In scaling up, we aim to scale up our cachet plants to 3, scale up our collection, and also support and applications to come up with products that would close the loop of plastic used in the communities. And with this, we develop the collection networks in the municipalities that we work in. In each municipality, we set up collection centers. And also for each cachet plant, we aim at processing 2,000 tons of plastics per year per plant. So with the 3 plants that we are developing in the next 3 years, we would process 6,000 tons of plastic per year. Next. Geographically, we are located on the in Accra, in the southern part of Accra. The first plant that we are currently operating is on the eastern, southeastern corridor of Accra. At this plant, we have 2 collection centers to support it with mobilization of plastics to the processing plant. In the coming months, we would also build another processing plant about 30 kilometers from the existing plant, which is also on the eastern part of Accra. And next year, we would open the 3rd plant, which would be on the western, southwestern part of Accra. And for the end application that we are supporting, that is ceramic recycling, would also be located in this part of Accra. The municipalities we are working in are Ponkatamanso Municipality, Tema West Municipality, and the Weja Bawe Municipality. Next. So with collaboration with our local government partners, because we closely work with the municipalities that we work in, and with them, we organize collection through mobilization of the waste pickers. They've supported us to set up the collection centers to ramp up volumes in the remote parts of the municipalities for our plant. Currently, we have two collection centers in operation. In the next 3 years, we are going to open 4 additional collection centers in the other 2 municipalities that we are working in. We are also we've set up a collection point with cages to also support the collection in the communities. We are also engaging schools. Currently, we have 58 schools that we've educated, sensitized, and collecting plastics from their schools and giving them and paying for it for them to use the money to support operations and maintenance of their toilet and water facilities. We are also doing weekly plastic trading in the communities that we work in. The Ghana, the municipalities organize what they call the National Sanitation Days, where they use it to collect plastics, where they use it to clean up their communities. And during the cleanups, we set up plastic trading. And after the cleanup, community members would present their plastics for trading. And we also give them other rewards apart from cash. We give them other rewards such as plastic materials, food, etc., etc. Next slide. For the end application we are supporting, one informal, brilliant entrepreneur called Ibrahim Yogbari of Pyramid Recycling has come up with plastic lumber or plastic composites that we are supporting to develop, that in the coming months, it would come into stream. And this product, his plant would absorb plastics from our processing plant at the Weja Bawi. He will set up his own operations at Weja Bawi, and they would absorb the plastics from us. Currently, the bulk of our plastics are going to other end applications such as alu boards and building material that is building sheets that are used for building material that are used for building in Accra. So these two end applications are major outlets for our plastics. Next. Next. So in the past 3 years that we've been engaged in plastic reprocessing, the things that we have learned that we want to share is that we should always start small. So start small. There's room for failure. You would always fail because you are starting. And you should learn from your failures and constantly improve on your model through the learnings from the experience. And in all this, you would secure continuous growth in the process. Local government engagement is a key enabler. In our experience, we have learned a lot. In our experience with our engagement with local government, they have supported us a lot in mobilizing the waste in the communities. So they are key enabler. Our collaboration with our European partners have supported us, especially ETH, who are in this call, have supported us with insight and know-how to manage our plastics and the plants that we operate. Local entrepreneurship development is also key, because at the end of the day, if they get it right, they would help to develop the sector. And in supporting them, what they lack is technical skills, and therefore they need the technical know-how to develop to become entrepreneurs for the sector. And we also say national government engagement would remain the main enabler for financial sustainability and scale up of waste management systems in the country. It requires collaborative ecosystem and subsidy system for the collection and initial reprocessing of waste. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hilda, for a very interesting talk. There is a question or two for you. We'll save those for the end after we've had all the other talks. And so I'm very happy to introduce our second speaker, Professor Lorena Munoz from the University of Vina del Mar in Chile. Thank you, Lorena.
Thank you. Could you please put next? Thank you. The project is related with circular economy implementation in Mexico in order to recover agricultural plastic waste over there. Next, please. There is no doubt that at present time we face a climate emergency and sustainable emergency, biodiversity emergency, with an increasing ecological footprint and a reduction of natural resources available. So the following paper describes the impact of activities to increase full recycling of agricultural plastic waste in Mexico. Next, please. At present time, what we have is that less than 10% of the resources are recycled. Therefore, we have a linear economy where we use natural resources and ecosystemic services. They enter into the economy to produce wealth, GDP, value add, and economical value add. And after that, we transfer to the environment back externalities, normally negative externalities. Next, please. Traditionally, the agricultural sector has prospered and developed in areas where geographically then soil, temperatures, climate is optimal. Protect agriculture, referring to the use of technology to modify the natural environment condition, will be in place in order to increase yield and productivity. In Mexico, the Protect agriculture mainly in the border with the United States. Although this has a good impact into the economy and the production of crops, there is also a negative externality due to the associated agricultural plastic waste produced. Next, please. Before the project implementation, just less than 10% of the total plastic waste produced by year was recycled mainly by the Association of Recyclers of Plastic Waste in Mexico. Previous one, thank you. The growing rate of this plastic waste is about 20% per year because mainly the United States is exporting to Mexico plastic waste as recycling raw material to a country that doesn't have the appropriate technology or know how to recycle it. The common practice, therefore, is to take this plastic and give it away to poor agricultural families in rural areas so they could burn it in order to warm their homes during the winter time. Next, please. Baseline scenario then reflect the linear situation we have. And then the project scenario, as you can see here, include a plastic, instead of being a virgin resin, we include here a recycled resin. Of course, the idea was to see what happened in terms of energy, in terms of recyclability, and the emission of GHGs of each of the process. Next, please. Then the whole aim of this was trying to reduce the negative externalities of the cycling, improving the recyclability of the plastic, increasing the recyclability of the plastic waste and introducing it again into the economy, trying to return back to the environment, not natural assets, instead of just externalities, negative externalities. Next, please. So we in the country with the Plastic Association help the government in terms of launch and create a new norm for plastic recycling. We select the best technologies available. And we also determine the minimal size of the productive facility. We arrive at the end of the project to increase the recycling of this plastic material from this about 5 to 7% of recycling to 43% last year. The plastic waste is to be transformed into a new product. As you can see in the picture, it is transformed in geomembranes that are sold and exported from Mexico to the United States. Among the impact, we have the reduction of over 5 million tons of CO2, an increase of $1 billion of GDP for the country, and the creation of about 1.5 million new jobs at the end of this project that was thought in a period of over 7 years. We are in the 4th year. Next, please. Then if we see again our cycle, where the only cycle we had at first was the central picture in this drawing, we right now have the use of not natural resources, then not natural assets that are entering into the economy. So we reduce the amount of natural resources we need to have in place this plastic production. We increase the amount of GDP and value add to society. We return back to the environment, not natural environmental assets. So we allow the nature to recover itself by reducing or avoiding negative externalities. Next, please. This is done because we include into the equation all the environmental assets and liabilities of the cycle. And these unveil incomplete contracts that are at the base of an unsustainable world. Because if we don't take account of the environmental liabilities and including it into the calculation of all the economical growth, we have an incomplete contract that favors, in this case, the unsustainable chain. Non-sustainable investment have hidden costs and are socializing externalities without including transaction costs. If we include the transaction cost, the not sustainable chain is not anymore possible in terms of economy. Plastic recycling can change the cost of production, and it also can change its final cost if we produce renewable energy and supply renewable energy to the facility. We face, therefore, a new firm scenario, and we need a new equilibrium between the firm as a unit in the economy and its environment. At present time, what we have is that a firm or an industry, since there is incomplete contracts between the firm and the environment, this firm can develop anyway, even if it don't take into the account all the costs, including the environment. If we transparent the environmental liabilities and the environmental asset that can be produced through circular economy, of course, we will have a more competitive good produced through circular economy instead of having the virgin plastic production. Next, please. Thank you very much. And this is the picture of the team of the first facility that we implement in Mexico. It was implemented in Reynosa, Tamaulipas, in the border with Texas, with McAllen, Texas. And that is a red zone. So one of the big challenge was how we could fund this in a red zone where cartels are developed. Believe it or not, the cartel guys protect facilities because part of this social outcome is that we give jobs to about 200 women that were abandoned by their husband that went to pursue the American dream the other side of the border. So there is also a huge social impact in this kind of projects. Thank you very much. So I'm available for any questions you could have.
Thank you, Lorena, for these interesting insights from Mexico. And yeah, please save your questions for afterwards. Write it in the chat so we don't forget it. And we're coming now to the next presentation by Rajendra Kumar. He's an advisor on environmental matters for the Falcon Citizen League in Mauritius and also an officer at the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Mauritius. I'm looking forward to your presentation, please.
Thank you, co-chairs, and good afternoon, dear participants. Yes, my presentation will be something like, is Mauritius prepared to become a plastic-free island? First of all, let me tell, next slide, please. First of all, next slide, please. Yes, let me introduce where Mauritius is found. Mauritius is a small island developing state. It is in the Indian Ocean. We have a population of only 1.3 million and a waste production of annual waste production of around 540,000 tons annually. So even Mauritius is not apart from this plastic pollution. Plastic, the percentage of plastic as compared to other seeds, we also produce around 14% of plastics in our waste. Next slide, please. So you can see even in Mauritius, we have this problem of plastic disposal. We do have indiscriminate disposal of plastics. And this is, since Mauritius is a high resort tourist destination, I mean, this is a very much concern to the country. So in terms of economic, in terms of even in terms of social. So as you can see about the pictures which I have on the right-hand side, so you can see the plastic. These are, you can see even, you can't see the leaves of the tree. You can see a tree made of plastics. I mean, even you can see at the bottom side, you have even the problem of flooding because we have the plastic, they obstruct the drains, this leading to flood. Next slide, please. So the government vision is now that we should promote Mauritius as a plastic-free destination, a plastic-free country by 2030. Next slide, please. So, what is the objective of this paper is to see that how is the roadmap, we have to construct the roadmap, we have to chart the roadmap of how to reach to this plastic-free country. So what has been the current status up to now? We have been 2 regulations, mainly banning the 10 single-use plastic products such as plastic cutleries, takeaways, inch containers, and these have been enforced since January 2020. The second regulation is the banning of the use of plastic bags, right, since March 2021. There have been also provision to flood the market with biodegradable products. And the introduction of a registration system to track down illegal importation or manufacture of fake biodegradable products. Because on the market, and you see the biodegradable products, there are people, I mean, just to have another way to manufacture these, they are having fake labelings on their biodegradable products, which is in fact not biodegradable products, and it's similar to the banned plastic. So enforcement is quite a problem in Mauritius right now for banning of these plastic. And our government is thinking seriously of having a roadmap for plastic-free Mauritius. Next slide, please. So what have been observations following these regulations and the steps taken by government? We have seen an improvement that large companies, hotels, hypermarkets, they're complying to the 2 regulations. As far as these are concerned, we don't have any problem with them. But the problem is that the food industries, they are looking for replacement of these single-use products. So they are asking for additional moratorium period in order to comply to these 2 regulations. The problem is that under the small markets or fair, they are still using illegal plastic bags. Or, as I already mentioned, that the fake biodegradable plastic bags is being used onto the small markets. And this is really quite a big problem because enforcement is a real problem. Even the government have sensitization campaigns, but these are quite costly and these are done on a one-off basis. Next slide, please. So what are we recommending? I mean, what do we need to consider in the roadmap? So we are proposing that we need to adopt a phase-wise banning approach. That is, we can't ban plastic immediately, all types of plastic. Yeah, what we are proposing that to adopt a phase-wise banning. What we have to do is that first of all, we have to define the scope of a plastic-free country. That is, we can't ban all types of plastic. For instance, there are plastics which are, for example, used in the health sector. So until we can find a replacement, then we can ban this type of plastic. So first of all, we will have to define the scope of the plastic. free Mauritius. And then after that, we'll have to perform an inventory of the plastic categories within the defined scope. Next will be to prioritize the categories of the plastic to be banned. And secondly, we have also to see into the possibility of promoting circularity for existing categories of plastic. Then for each category of plastic that we have already defined, we need to gather background information. For instance, whether replacement are available, or if we are saying that we should ban this type of plastic, do we have the alternatives available on the market? If not, what we should do? Should we promote the research for this? Or is there any locally available material? There is nature-based solution, could be a solution to that. Then we need to have a stakeholders consultation, because without taking on board all the stakeholders, we can't just impose on them. Right? So we need to define the timeline and the roadmap together with the stakeholders consultation. Then we need to come with the regulations of banning this type of the defined and agreed with the defined and agreed timeline. Next will be the implementation, and a proper enforcement mechanism should be put in place. Following this, we need to have a feedback mechanism. Once we see where we are failing, then we need to apply corrective measures. And with this, we think that this should be the main elements of the roadmap that we need to construct for the country of Mauritius. And with this, next slide, please. With this, I end my presentation. I know because of time constraint, we haven't been able to elaborate much on that, but I will wait for questions if you have for clarification. Thank you, co-chairs.
Thank you very much for your presentation. That's very interesting.
Thank you.
I don't think that the next speaker is with us. I just checked he's not here as an attendee or as a panelist. And I think he's the last. So we can go now to questions, and we have about 20 minutes for questions, which is great. There was one here I noticed for Hilda. So if I can read out the question here from Yvonne Matua, who is with the Global Climate Forum, and she asked, is the plastic waste collected, recycled into plastic pellets or into what? She wasn't sure about that. And how much do you pay per kilogram of plastic collected?
For the plastics collected, we have different sources, and depending on the source, there is a price for it. So for example, the collection from schools, where we give them the enablers, we give them the infrastructure for collection and everything, and give them the training and everything. We get it for the sachet, we get it at 70 pesos. I don't know how to translate that in dollars, but like, that would be difficult. And then for the PET is 50 pesos per kilo. From the waste, from the aggregators, we buy it at 1 cedi 20 pesos per kilo for the sachet. And for the gallons, that's the rigid plastics, we buy it at 1 cedi 60 pesos per kilo.
So if I can chip in a follow-up question, so that is determined by the type of plastic, not by how sort of contaminated it is or how, you know, ready to use it might be.
Yes, it's actually the type of plastics. We have put in quality control measures with our sources, and they try to make sure that we get it as cleaner as possible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So far, there's one other question, which is also for Hilda. So it's your lucky day, Hilda. So this is a question from Anna Brass from LJMU, who said a nice presentation, but she's are not clear about the final two applications that you mentioned for waste plastics. That's a difficult question to answer now, perhaps, but if you can remember what the final two were.
Well, I remember I mentioned the alu boards and then the construction sheet. So the alu boards are actually aluminum boards they use for construction, and they also use it for billboards, advertising boards and all that. And normally the plastics are insulated between two thin aluminum sheets. That's how best I can explain it. And for the construction sheets, they normally use them to, especially when they are building story buildings, to for the deckings, to insulate the cement and the mortar and all that from leaking out of the platforms that they form. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have some time.
And I think somebody also asked about the material we process. So we reprocess our plastics into shreds. There are some customers who want them in shreds or pellets. So we pelletize or we sell just shreds. And shreds here, we clean them, we wash them, shred them and dry them, and sell it off to end applications. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yes,
I think Catharina was supposed to also give a presentation.
She's no longer here, and the panelist.
Because there were two slides in my presentation that was supposed to be done by her, and it's really technical. So, and I'm not technical, so I left it for her to do it.
Yes, thank you. So I see also a question for Lorena. It reads, please, can you expand on what productive agriculture meant from your presentation? That's by Yvonne Mutua.
I couldn't hear you. Can you?
It is what
productive. Oh, yeah, I can read it. What productive agriculture means.
Yes.
Normally, agriculture prosper in where the environment, the soil, the temperature, the weather is good. The protect, it's not productive, protect agriculture means when you have, you modify environment by irrigation, by temperature, by applying the means to modify the conditions in order to get more yield from the area. So that's what I mean with protect agriculture. And it's more productive, meaning we can have more crops per acre or hectare or square meters. But the point is we use normally for that purpose plastics. Low density plastics normally to have tunnels and protect soil and protect the crops. So all that plastic finally spent its life about between 2 to 3 years. So we need to change again and shape again all this protection to the agriculture after 2 to 3 years. And that gives tons and tons of plastic waste that is normally contaminated with soil and with sometimes pesticides and all of that. So in our case, what we did is to take all that plastic waste that came from Mexico that was more dirt, had more dirt and was in bad shape, and mix it with all that plastic that came from the United States that was better quality garbage. So we could put it together in order to have better, more efficient cycles in the recycling, so to make it easier. I don't know if I answered the question.
May I ask a follow-up question on this? Like, what kind of input material do you use for producing these films? Is it only films from agriculture, or is it other stuff as well? So
no, just only films from agriculture.
Yeah,
and also some films from ports. There was some, you know, since it's at the border, there is a lot of exchange in between the two countries, and we were close to two ports, like the customs ports. So we have all the films that comes from with the import and export that are going and forward from the United States. So that also is mixed, all this low density plastic.
Okay, thank you very much. So maybe some question to Rajendra.
I have a question for Rajendra, if I don't want to cut off anyone else, but so thank you very much for your talk. You were describing, I think that was a government initiative in Mauritius to ban plastic. Do you have the support of the public as well, or was it perhaps driven by public concerns?
No, initially we had this opposition from the public, because, you know, the public, they already use this, this plastic. So because they already use this plastic, so removing them from this bad habit, I mean, it was quite tough. So the government, I mean, seeing those, because we had a case of flooding where there was loss of 11 of our citizens, unfortunately. So with this, it has, I already mentioned that we have economic and even social problems arising with this plastic pollution. So government thought it wise that we need to impose the regulations, the banning of plastic. But we have given even like a moratorium period of 1 year prior to imposing this regulation. So people were already aware that we will be having imposition of this plastic regulation. So we have given them an ample time for them to look for alternatives. But still, people, I mean, they were not agreeable to this change. They were reluctant. But in the end, I mean, from the hotel side, from the large hypermarkets, and there is no problem. They have already shifted to this biodegradable bags. But unfortunately, when it concerns to small markets, the small market fairs, they are still using these banned plastic bags.
There is a question, actually, it was in the WUVA, also for you, Rajendra. So it's from Michael Hartmann of For Earth Africa. He asked how many plastic recycles there are in Mauritius.
Let me define just what is plastic recycling. You know, because Mauritius is a small island, we don't have this, because of economies of scale, we have implanted only 2 plastic recycling. But initially, I mean, what do I mean by plastic recycling? There are only 2 companies that they collect this plastic waste and they recycle them into, as Adila mentioned, that they have also the plastic lumbers. So they have the bench manufactured with that. We have tables also being manufactured with that, but it's only on a small scale. And then what we do for collection of this plastic waste, especially these PET bottles, just like Adila also mentioned, that there is an informal collection system which exists in Mauritius. That is NGOs, and even from schools, they do collect these PET bottles, and in exchange to 1 kilogram, they are given like 50 rupees, I mean Mauritian rupees. It might be like, say for instance, 20 or 30 shillings, cents in terms of dollars. Yeah, so in exchange. And then what the recycler they do, they collect these plastic bottles and then they shred it, making into flakes, and then they export it to South Africa. So probably say that we don't really recycle PET bottles in Mauritius, but some plastic waste they do collect and recycle them into plastic lumbers and into plastic benches and tables. But it's very in a little amount. And also recycled plastic, as everybody knows that it is costly. So that's why people prefer to purchase virgin plastic rather than recycled plastics.
There's another interesting follow-up question, maybe the last one before we go for the poll. This is the Mauritian government supporting local eco-friendly alternatives, these substitutions for the plastics, or are they all important?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, yes, government support, local eco-friendly alternative initiative. We are given like a subsidy on those importing biodegradable plastics, right? And we also facilitate like business facilitation, like they waive some of the tax that they have to pay. So we do provide initiatives, and also before imposing this ban on plastic bags, government, what it did, those who was manufacturing plastic bags in Mauritius, we had a trip to China to accompany those manufacturers. They had a trip to China, and for them that was to show them what type of industries or what type of equipment is needed to ship to this biodegradable plastic. So these were certain initiatives that government provided. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for joining this session. It was a pleasure to have you on board.
Yes, thank you very much from me as well. It's very interesting talks and some good discussion as well.